All right, we're going to try something a little different here. I've done a couple of these before, and I thought we'd try again to do some kind of open mic slash call in program slash whatever the hell you want to call it. Why? Eh, I feel like something different. Maybe get some people here who may have come across my content but never actually said anything but want to contrast with me, want to argue. The people who want to do the internet debates, I don't know. I'm still tired. This is one of those lazy Saturdays. But hey there, Zoomy. Just going to point out that this is the link. If you want to join in, you can go to that link. I want you to do some restream stuff. Once you've done said restream things, you'll be in the back room waiting to get put on the casting couch. Nah. But so I didn't have too much planned for this. It was a little bit of a spur of the moment thing, as every stream of mine is. So I thought we would take a look at, as an interim till somebody actually comes in, this what happens when a culture rejects God, by some pastor named Gary Hemrick. I guess this may function as a nice contrast between how Hovind does his deals and how we got, hell, we got Brock. Brock is in the chat. Hey, oh,
Hello, just got done eating some beans. You want to know something really funny?
what up?
When I was little, I mean, it's kind of expected. When you're little, you don't know everything. I was like 5 years old. The beans made me think of this, by the way. I was wondering, why are white people white and blacks are black? I just had no idea. And then
Yeah.
then I had a dumb idea. I thought it made sense then, but it makes no sense now. What if white people ate too much cheese and blacks ate too many beans? See, I'm weird.
I wish I had the camera set up because I just shook my head like, oh man. Oh god, no comment.
I
uh,
mean, to be honest, I try to be vegan, but I really love cheese. So, that's another thing about me is I like cheese. Some of
I
it more
do.
than others.
Yeah, I do too, man. Cheese is great.
Say again?
I said, yeah, man, cheese is pretty freaking great.
I think you said Jesus for a second. I was like,
Oh,
oh.
no. Jesus. Jesus made of cheese. A cheesus.
Yeah,
Got ambush
Jesus.
apostate coming in a second, so it looks like this may become more of just a regular old chat. All right, someone named Jack. Who's Jack? Let's find out who Jack is. Hello there.
Hey, what's up? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just popped on. I saw you guys were on. I figured I'd ask you guys some questions if that was cool.
Yeah. I mean, I take it you're just. Forgive me when I say this. Just a random theist.
No, I'm actually an atheist. I just have some
Oh, okay.
questions.
Okay, cool. I mean, it wouldn't matter either way. Okay, cool. Let me toggle settings a little better so this thing looks better than just a window there. Well, we're gonna, we'll just leave that in the corner. It works. Yeah. So what's up, man?
Yeah, so I'm an atheist. I've deconstructed from Catholicism, um, but I'm just having a hard time, I guess, grappling with what the hell is morality? Like what are ethics? Where do they come from? Like, is it real? Like, or do we just make it up? Um, how ought one live one's life? Like, I don't know. When it comes to like epistemology and stuff, I'm finding myself distrusting everything. And I don't know how to like. I guess what I'm trying to say is like I'm not sure how I ought to think, or like what my framework should be if I have any kind of grounding in objective reality. Does that make sense? I'm not sure if I'm explaining it correctly, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah, not
I
for me. It is coming through in the way I'd expect it to, kind of scattered as you try to put all the pieces back together. Since you've deconstructed, you symbolically have nothing but fragments left over, and it's like, how do I put these back together into some kind of reasonable picture? And that becomes a tricky thing from at least the experience I've seen of others. Um, I summarize personal morality in my end. I describe it as, this is going to get weird, but I hope it'll make sense when I explain it because this is my first time really talking with another person on it. You know, I've mentioned it in streams before, but as subjectively objective, insofar as, to not be too much of a meme about it, we live in a society. We're social creatures. So it benefits us to do things that benefit others. And they would, generally, people would reciprocate these things. We also have empathy. So naturally, we don't want to be harmed. And we realize generally we don't want to harm others. For the most part, that seems to be just a standard that is. And so while what is defined as harm to another person, you might tell a simple lie to somebody that someone else might never do, or you might, in some way do something possibly tiny or possibly more that may or may not harm someone to some degree. That's the subjective aspect of it. But on a whole, extreme outliers, those who cause severe harm, get ostracized by society. And barring someone just not caring, we don't want to be ostracized by society. So it creates the standard by the nature of us being a social species to me, if that makes sense. There's going to be a whole lot of us talking and being like, do these words even make sense? That's sort
Well,
of the way
I
I.
I hear what you're saying. I just disagree, man. I don't think that um like people that don't cause harm to others are like, you know, placed high in society. I mean, what's the old adage? Like, nice guys finish last. Like, look at President Trump. Like, I hate the guy, but like, so many people love the guy, and he is just a complete asshole. Like, he fucks people over. He does whatever he can, and people glorify that kind of behavior. I mean, especially in this capitalist society where people are like idolize Elon Musk and other billionaires like Jeff Bezos and stuff. Like, these kind of people got rich off of like exploiting, others, right? And being bad in society. Like our system rewards those that kind of are like the biggest bully in the playground, right? So like,
Yeah.
if that's true, right, that like, oh, well, as a society we're supposed to like help those, because it's good for society, then shouldn't like these kind of behaviors have like died out?
Well, first I want to welcome my buddy Seth here. How you doing,
What's
Seth?
up? Good. How are y'all?
Um, on that subject, though, uh, the key word there is system. It's the society we live in. Those elements of it are artificially tacked on to what was originally good intent with the natural way that we behave to one another or should behave to one another. But invariably, greed, when given the capability to dominate, uh, winds up growing into the situations like we have, like you brought up, with the current political climate, the current economic climate, the theocratic hell that people want the country to become. It's it shows a flaw in, I want to think, or shows the problem with the leader and follower mentality rather than everyone wanting to group together and work towards common good. Everyone wants their own in these pockets, if again that phrasing makes sense. It is, you would think it would be something that we would all rally up against, but for whatever reason we don't. And that is a bit of a conundrum, more
I mean,
so on why we do that.
for me, I mean, I look at it as like, hey, we're all primates, right? Like, what do chimpanzees do? What do gorillas do? They rally behind like one alpha, or one like, I don't know, group that kind of takes over and is able to like provide the resources that the group needs to like survive. And like in that group, there's like a social hierarchy, right? And so like,
Mm,
because we're primates, like we also can't help but to, kind of abide by this whole um I guess like social hierarchy, bullying, us versus them kind of behavior. But when I think of it in terms of that, like that, right? To me, the whole notion of ethics and morality just makes no sense anymore. Because like, I wouldn't say that chimpanzees or gorillas have morality, but I mean, I guess I would say that human beings think we do. So if that makes sense, I'm trying to convey like the idea of morality and ethics doesn't make sense to me in the same way that chimpanzees and other animals don't have morality, because
No,
as human beings we're just animals, right? So like
I
I really don't understand.
I could see I actually can see quite well where you're coming from on this. Brock, Seth, what do you guys possibly have to add?
I'd
It's
never
well, I mean,
studied
to me,
moral
it
philosophy. I
sounds
just
like
don't
you
know
may be.
anything.
Good.
Go, no, you go ahead.
No,
You
it
probably got better tonight.
sounds like to me, uh, Jack. It sounds like to me that you may be conflating morality with empathy, and I think that's where, like, if I'm looking at where my morality comes from now that I'm free of religious dogma, other people and myself wanting to, basically be treated how I'm treating them. Does that make sense? And like that is a thing that we do see in other primate species. And so to say they don't have morality, like I get where you're coming from, and it is a complex topic, but I do think that we have an innate empathy, unless there is something that might be wrong with our brains in some way that
Yeah,
leads to our
I
moral.
don't think it's innate, and maybe this is like a nature versus nurture kind of argument. Because like there are people that like don't have that, or because of whatever kind of experiences they've had growing up, they've like lost it, right? So like psychopaths, sociopaths, they exist. And like if
Right?
somebody doesn't grow up in a society, let's just say like I don't know, to go back to like Batman or something. Like a child grows up in prison, right? Like that child wouldn't grow up with like a sense of morality. They would believe in like might makes right, right? And so to me, like it can't possibly be innate.
I mean, like I said, I don't know a lot enough, a lot about it on a professional level, and I would love to hear some anybody else who has studied this more, thoroughly. But for me, I do feel like, especially as a parent, like the love I have for my kids is not something that I have to like force. Like I feel like that is built into me as a parent, protecting and providing for my kids. That to me,
Right, but
they
I
is
mean,
something that is not. It
not to
isn't.
cut you off. Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, I'm not doubting that you feel that way.
What?
What I'm just saying is like I've been a public defender for like 7 years. I've been a guardian ad litem for about 8 years now, and I've just seen bad parents. I've seen parents that don't even care.
Oh,
Parents that have no love for
100
their children, they abandon their children, they neglect their children. So it's like,
for
would that
sure.
even be a choice? Is that a choice that they're making? Like if it's innate, right? Then how can I like believe in free will as an atheist, right? Unless maybe I
I
can't.
understand. I understand that.
If free
Yeah.
will doesn't exist, okay, yeah. So if free will doesn't exist, then like morality really can't exist, because then like who's at fault if we're not in control of our choices?
Okay. Well, let's say that we are in control of our choices, and for the sake of argument, free will does exist, and we have that free will. Uh, is it not still each individual person's responsibility to uh, use that free will in a way that is beneficial to the people around them?
I mean, it depends on like who how you define the people around them. So like if I'm trying to
Well,
take care of me and
like
my
you said,
family,
as a
right?
yeah, like as a public defender, you said you'd seen some bad parents. I was a patrol cop for 8.5 years. I've seen the same type of thing. So you look at parents and say, okay, they have free will. They've made choices for whatever reason, unethical or immoral choices for whatever reason. So that individual person's responsibility. And if they choose not to, if you choose to not feed your children, for instance, everybody else in society is pretty much said, hey, that's really messed up, and we denounce that, and that's an immoral act.
Sure.
Do they not have? That's what I'm saying.
I
So if there is free will,
I understand where you're
choice to
going.
choose whether or not to feed
I
their
understand where
kids,
you're
and if
going.
that
Right. When it comes to something like feeding your kids, I understand where you're going with that. When it comes to other things, like for instance, let's just say, would it be ethical to steal food from a grocery store if you're trying to feed your children? Right. Well, in a
right,
society that has like food banks and services that can provide for a family like that, then maybe it wouldn't be ethical to do so, right? But in another society, like, I don't know, let's just say like a third world country that doesn't have those kind of services, well then sure, you might be justified to steal, a loaf of bread to feed you and your children, right? But let's just take it even further, right? Let's just say like Luigi Mangione, like in a society in which United Healthcare exists and is denying all these healthcare claims. Like, how do you stop the CEOs from doing this kind of thing, right? And so like some people, I would say like a pretty wide uh, majority of people is kind of side with Luigi. They're frustrated and they're like, hey, something's wrong here. These insurance companies aren't doing good for society. We need to change that. And they've lost faith in the justice system. They lost faith in their
What the woman help
representatives.
you?
So like, of course, somebody like Luigi is going to exist. So like, would that be ethical?
That's where the subjectivity does come in. It is going to depend on the person, and thus depend on multiple people, thus deciding basically through some kind of consensus what is and isn't going to be accepted, and that does become complicated, very complicated. And I'm in the camp where it's become a regular meme with me that Luigi Mangione did nothing wrong, but that's because of the multitude of the views of I have on things, the multitude of offenses that I found that many groups like that have caused. And what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say. As a society as it exists, yeah, we've determined that's wrong. And realistically, one shouldn't go for vigilante justice. But at a point, what do you have to do to change a system that is messed up? That perhaps the system that has been established by perverting, manipulating, otherwise taking advantage of the laws of how society does run. At what point do you have to tear that down by also breaking what
Right.
society is? That's my thing.
So I just think like when it comes to like theists kind of poking apart like atheist arguments about morality, I think they have a point, because if we could just like willy-nilly kind of just decide, hey, well, Luigi is right for killing this guy, and our morals and ethics can change on a dime, so to speak, or because like societal consensus says so, then we really have no like grounding for like what ought to be,
But
or
Can,
how we
but
should
can I
act.
can I?
is that me?
Hi, friends.
hey, deviant, just a second. I was
Hi.
gonna say, but it's
Come
not
on.
Yeah,
such a
I
instant thing is the thing. It's not so much instant. It becomes more of a gradual movement that may come relatively suddenly, a la revolutions that have happened throughout, history. But there's always a motivation. There's always a group consensus that no, this is the better way. We've deemed that there's an injustice happening. We cannot allow this to happen anymore.
I I would like to, because I'm actually about to eat. I'm super hungry, but I had to
Yeah,
jump into that. That's why I'm kind of pressing. I don't really mean to take up space.
yeah, go for it,
Uh,
deviant.
so first of all, I think, yeah, you're saying that uh, when theists argue against atheists, that yeah, their morality can just switch on a dime. I mean, yeah, sure, it can. It usually doesn't, but as an idea, it could. The thing is, though, that argument stems from the idea that theists have a set morality, a set ethics, but that's not true, because the
Right. I agree.
morality and ethics of the church has changed, of course.
Of course. Yeah.
So we can't really. Yeah, sure. It would be beautiful if everyone had the same idea about what's right and wrong, but that would also take away our individuality as humans. And the fact of the matter is that as we are a social species, we do, as a general, want to be treated the way we want. We want to treat others the way we want to be treated, or in similar matter. So I don't want to be punched in the face, and I also don't punch others, but that's just one part of it. The other part is that we have empathy, and there's a difference between having empathy, which is innate, and morality, which is just a set of laws, a
But
set
I
of
don't think
rules
we
that we
have.
set
I
up.
don't think. I'm
You,
sorry for interrupting. I just
yeah,
don't
sure.
think that we have empathy that is consistently applied. We have empathy for those that are like us, right? But
Yes,
we don't have empathy for those that are unlike us.
exactly.
For
And
like,
and so this is where my kind of specialty comes into play, because our our physiology doesn't change like young earth creationist tries to claim it does. It takes a very long time for evolution to happen, and the fact of the matter is that we have only been living um, in larger groups. And when I say larger groups, I'm talking about groups of people that are more than 10 to 15 peoples from. So Homo sapiens, our species, came about 250,000 years ago, about that time. We have only lived in larger groups for about 10,000 years. That's like a duck's fart in the universe when you think in matter of scale. So when we interact with people, our brain physiology still, and all our physiology is still at in the on the overarching scale, is working as if we were in smaller groups, which is why we see these issues like tribalism and racism and us versus them. And that it's also why it's so easy for us to latch on to those kind of ideas. We we aren't used to society as it is today. I mean, we have a global society. I'm sitting in the northern part of Sweden right now. I'm talking to you guys who are in the US. That 100 years ago, 150 years ago, I wouldn't even have met my fiance probably, because he lived 1,000 kilometers away from me. I would probably only have met the people who lived in my village in all of my lifetime. And that's the state of humanity we see from we first started to live as settlers to the modern day. So we have to realize that we have um, a challenge in front of us, and we need to constantly be vigilant and remind ourselves that this is wrong because it hurts people. And in some
Right.
areas that's easier, in others it's more difficult. So I'm
but
sorry for
okay,
babbling on, but
for
Very,
yeah,
very well put, Deviant. Thank you for sharing that.
thank you.
okay. Now this is gonna sound like a dumb response, and I'm really not trying to troll. I'm just trying
There
to
are no
honestly ask
stupid
this question.
questions. There are no
Why
stupid
is it
questions.
important? Why is it important not to harm somebody? Because a lot of people just don't even care. I've seen it day in and day out. People don't, a lot of people just don't care about the well being of others. They care about the well being of themselves. And so how do you try to convince somebody or try to like understand this problem?
So for the most part,
So
it's a
Jack, let
question
me
of
go
not.
ahead.
No, it's a question about making people realize that people who are different from you are still people. The issue becomes when we have, for instance, authoritarians in charge, like in the US today, sadly, who diminish the value of others so that that person wouldn't harm someone in their family or in their friend group or even someone they just know. But as soon as
Well,
it's someone they
deviant,
don't
deviant,
know or they're not aware of, yeah,
real
sorry.
quick, and I'm sorry. I know there's a big
Go
delay
ahead,
here.
Sid.
I think there's
No,
another aspect though with
yeah.
Jack that we're missing, and I recognize this because I have the exact same thing. He stated earlier that he's a public defender. That is correct, Jack?
Yeah,
Okay, so you see, he's in
Okay.
court. He sees
that's
a
correct.
lot of the worst of the worst. As a patrol cop, I
Hmm.
also saw worst case scenario day after day after day, and it is easy and was easy for me to all of these horrible people doing these horrible things. Life is just horrible. Everybody, I would encourage you to do is at least try to take a step back in your mind and look at it from a bigger picture because you deal with the bad guys of society. And there are bad guys. Let's not, mix that up. But there's an aspect that we don't see when we're that close to all the bad, which is there is a lot of good. And those people aren't doing the bad things that these criminals are. And that's happening a lot more than the bad situations. So perspective on that for me, I saw it when I left law enforcement because I kind of backed away from that lifestyle. But I think that would help, at least in that aspect, understanding it's not everybody that's doing these horrible things.
Okay, sure. When it comes to like violent crimes or things like that, I totally understand that not everybody's a violent criminal, right? But when it comes to like other softer things, right? For instance, like, um, I forgot the woman's name from Sweden. What's her name? That we
Deviant.
just talked. Yeah,
Deviant.
It's,
deviant. Okay,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. You were talking about like racism and xenophobia. Well, there's also
Hmm.
like other forms of discrimination. For instance, like weight stigma, or like
Yeah.
people discriminating against those that are disabled or like the elderly,
But
right? When it comes to
the
that, I
core
would say like
issue is the same.
vast majority of people, right,
Hmm.
find people that are like overweight like to be disgusting and they treat them worse, right? Or
Yeah.
people that are disabled like to be freaks and they socially isolate from them like they're worse to them, and we find this everywhere, right? It's not just like,
N-
oh, an American thing or a Western world thing. No, it's like
Sure, but you
everywhere. Every single human being like has a preference for those that are attractive versus that are those that are unattractive, right?
but you
And when
it's
it
on a scale though. And so for instance you said about the people who are disabled. Yeah, we still have some of that in Sweden. Um, it's better in some areas and worse in others. But we
I
don't
mean,
have it on the
all a
scale
person
that
has to
I
do is
see.
look online, right? And you can see
Yeah,
like the
sure, but
comments that people post on Lizzo or
yeah,
about like the people that are on my 600-pound life or whatever. Like these
and
people are being
we need,
ridiculed.
yeah, but we need, as I said, we have we have an issue with accepting people who are different from us into our group. It's a uh, so it's on a societal scale where you have been taught, you hear others talk, they use certain language about people with disabilities or whom they perceive as unintelligent, and all of that. It's a constant. Humanity is never going to be perfect, and what is
I
even perfect?
Right. I know that humanity is never going to be perfect. All I'm trying to say is that there are people that exist in the United States now, right? And I can't
Yeah.
even believe I'm having to like say this because it sounds so stupid. But there are people now that are asking the question, why shouldn't I be racist? Like there are
Yes.
Trump supporting Americans, MAGA supporting Americans, or people just on the general right of the political uh, sphere that are asking the question like, why shouldn't I be racist? Why shouldn't I be xenophobic? Why shouldn't I be sexist? Right. So how
Yeah.
do I reach those kind of people, some of which, I might even be friends with? I disagree with those kind of beliefs personally, but it's unavoidable, especially now
Sure.
in today's day and age.
Hey, can,
Absolutely.
hey, can I talk now?
I'm. Yeah. I just want to say I need to jump off to eat something
Okay.
because I recognize it. But I might pop back in once I have gulped this down.
Go ahead and
I
eat.
just don't want
Have a good dinner,
to
Laura.
sit and chew
Or
in your ear.
DVS.
Thank you, Davian.
Thank
Yeah,
you all. It is
fine.
much love to all of you.
Y'all get to hear me, but you can't see me because I'm changing clothes and getting ready to go Lego shopping. Can y'all hear me okay? I'm just got my earpiece in. As long as y'all can
You're
hear
good.
me, okay, we're good.
Yeah, we can
Yeah,
hear you. I
we're
can hear
good.
you.
So I bring an interesting perspective to this because I deconstructed 5 years ago. I was a believer for like 45 years. And so I was raised, like immersed in all of this Bible mess. So I get where you're coming from, new person whose name I can't see because the screen is too small. Hello, new friend. So a thing that I do when I talk to my dad, who is still a believer, I turn Bible verses on him. Jesus said, "Who is my neighbor?" And he told the story of the it's out of my brain. The Good Samaritan. And the Good Samaritan met someone, or the Good Samaritan met someone who was a stranger to them and took care of them. This was not someone that they would normally have associated with. It was a stranger who was of a different ethnic group. And this
Sure.
story,
And I've used the Bible against theists too, right? But I've received pushback from some theists saying, "Oh, well, Jesus wasn't friends with everybody." I mean, I've literally heard that, right?
okay,
Or
Jesus,
Jesus only came to help the Jews at a specific time, and he wasn't friends with everybody. Like he had 12 friends, so like he did exhibit favoritism. Like he wasn't like not everybody was an apostle, right?
well, sure,
So what do you
but
do with that?
also, what I say is, Jesus did only have 12 apostles, but also he hung out with, who did Jesus hang out with? Tax collectors, sinners, prostitutes, the undesirables. Who did Jesus get in fights with? The religious bigots of the day. And who did Jesus have the most good times with? Regular, ordinary people. Who did Jesus have the biggest, hardest time with? People that we would look at now and say, I'm going to cuss, sorry, God's what a racist piece of shit. Those are the kinds of people that Jesus would have pointed his finger and gotten really, really mad and in their face about. So I
Mhm.
think there's nothing wrong with getting in some religious bigots face and saying, look, you're being a stupid piece of shit. Because that's what Jesus did, if we're being honest.
You're
What would
kind of
Jesus do? He would call upon their shit. So what we can do with that, again, I use the Bible on Bible people because it works, and I know the Bible really well because I lived in it for 45 years. And there's also a song, this is not from the Bible, but it's from the movie South Pacific, the musical. You have to be taught to hate. When you're a small child, you don't hate anybody. You learn how to be racist from your parents. You learn how to be fatphobic and transphobic from your parents. But the cool thing is, as I demonstrate, you can unlearn that because I used to be homophobic and I used to be a bigot, and I'm not anymore, and I raised my children better than my parents raised me. And do I believe in free will? I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't worked that out. I'm working out my deconstruction with fear and trembling. But my husband's laughing at me. No, he's laughing at something else. Never mind.
Yeah, I wish I could believe that. I don't think that
I hope so.
children are just these blank slates. I think that when it comes to like small children, even small children will discriminate against like the weaker child or like a child that's disfigured. I don't think they necessarily like have
There,
learned to
It's some.
but
there
like
is
I was
even
gonna say
I,
some might,
yeah,
but that's not gonna be all of them. Is
It's
the
not
thing. Some might. There's
even
always
the
gonna
majority.
be abnormalities,
It's not even the
oddities,
majority.
statistical anomalies. Yeah.
you are right in that there is some kind of tribal aspect built in, like Deviant was saying. We've only been living in societies for about 10,000 years, and that is
right.
sometimes you say the Spartan universe. Um, it's not a very long time that humans have been humaning in big cities, but so there is, a lot of us versus them. If you look at
And Laura,
um,
what is that sound?
Earth,
What's
what
that buzzing?
what's that? Is there buzzing? I'm sorry. I'm walking around.
I think it's a bit of distortion from bandwidth issues. This stream is like hanging on by a thread. I don't know how restream process. It's a little chaotic in here data wise. Joe Cool, you wanted to pop in with something, however.
I won't.
Yeah,
I
I did.
just have one more thing to say. I
Oh,
promise
Jeff.
I'm almost done. Um, we haven't been in society for very long. If you want like a bird or a non-societal mammal, a cat who has 6 kittens, and she knows that 2 of the kittens are going to die, she will ignore those kittens. There are some animals today who eat their young. So there is something in the DNA of individuals that say, this one's not worth it. We're going to turn our backs on that one. And that is, I don't know, genetic maybe, but also we as humans, Homo sapiens, the wise ones, we can be better than that, and that can be taught. And even if bad habits can have been learned, as I had, they can be unlearned. Does it take work? Yeah, it fucking does. Is it easy? No, it's fucking not. But it can be done. So that's all I want to say. So I'm gonna hop off so it doesn't take up too much stream. But anyway, I love chatting with
Thank
you
you,
guys.
Laura.
And you get to hear my voice. All right,
Glad you were
y'all
here.
take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. If I can give it to
I mean, a lot of this. Is, oh, Joe, go ahead. I'm sorry. I
Sure,
apologize.
thanks.
Go ahead.
No, so I was listening to the conversation. We're talking about what's like in our code or versus what's taught. Is that I'm understanding correctly?
That's some of
Yeah.
it, yeah.
Yeah. So
Roughly.
what I've seen this and I've heard about it. My grandparents have adopted 2 kids, and they were Christian and all this, and so they adopted someone who was from a family who was into drugs heavily, and they tried to raise them correctly. So I think there's three different aspects to this whole thing. There's biological aspect to it where you're just kind of naturally a certain way based on who you are born from, if that makes sense. There's also the way you are raised, and also the kind of the environment you are raised in, such as your peers and all of that. So
So it's not
I
just a
think,
case of nature. There's also nurture, standard, but then there's also
yeah,
the environment more, in its own way, acting as sort of a third party to all this.
yeah, yeah. Because when my grandparents raised my aunt in a Christian home, she still wanted to go out and smoke and do drugs and all of that. That it was in her nature because of who she was born from. And I think it's a big mix of all of that that makes who we are. And I think most of it we can't help. We can become who we want to be after we are grown up to a degree, but we're still in our own environment of how we grow up, and that kind of makes who we are for the most part. Any thoughts on any of that?
Well, I was just thinking, how many of you are parents?
No,
I have 3
Times
boys.
5.
Okay, so how do you guys know how to raise your children? Like what values do you instill in them, or try to instill in them? How do you know that those are correct? Like, is it just like a guessing game? Like when I'm talking about like morality and ethics, like I'm trying to like paint like a comprehensive picture of everything. It's not just about like how I want to live my life, but like how ought one live their life, and how do we determine what are good values and what are bad values? Is it just like, oh well, I just happen to like that? Is it just like this
Well,
is what I prefer? You know what I mean?
I've had to present this in a way that is ready for a courtroom. I've had to tell, my ex-wife and her family why, what I believe, because it's, and as an atheist, I guess they think I sacrifice on the weekends or whatever.
Right.
Where are my morals coming from? What are you teaching the kids? Very simply, I try. That is not a black light legal issue like I'm used to dealing with on a professional level. This is very, very much so looking at how to best manage this while maintaining the principles of causing as little harm as possible and maximizing well-being for everyone involved. Now, obviously, that can't happen every single time. There's going to be instances where harm will be suffered. There'll be things that happen that suck. It just is what it is. But if we have anything to do with it, I very simply tell my kids, treat people like you want to be treated and try to maximize well-being and minimize harm. Why does there need to be more than that is my question.
So how would you respond to one of your children saying, well, why should I treat people the way I want to be treated? Like, why can't I treat people that I don't like in a bad way, and treat people that I do like in a good way? And so be it. Like, why do I have to do anything? Like, what do you do when you're
Well,
when that's the pushback?
well, fortunately, I'm actually dealing with this with one of my kids right now. And while explaining some of the behavior they're going through and doing, I'm explaining to them, look, you don't want your stuff destroyed. You don't want your stuff taken without permission, do you? No. Okay. Well, nobody does. So when you go and take someone's things that don't belong to you, and then you break the things, that's a double whammy. Do you understand how you don't want your stuff being treated that way, right? So moving forward, you need to ask the person because you would like to be asked like that.
Sure.
It's like that, and when
But I mean,
why it
I'm not trying
causes
to
harm,
criticize
she
your
says to me,
right.
"Okay, well,
I'm not
I
trying to
just
criticize your
enjoy breaking
parenting.
people's
It just
stuff."
seems like that would just to the child mean like, well, if I can get away with it, if I'm not caught, then okay, then I'm not caught and I got away with it, right? But like, how do you explain it in a way that even if they're not caught, right, it's still bad for them to do? Like,
By
I understand what you're
using
saying,
empathy,
but like,
by telling them to put else's position. I don't know how to boil it down to make it any more simple, but it, just I don't know if you're following this.
no, it's fine. It's just I've encountered a lot of people in my life that lack empathy, right? And
Anybody
so
else?
I guess what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say is
I may
because
have
I've
dropped. I don't know.
actually encountered people in my because I've encountered people in my life that have like lacked empathy. Like this is why I'm finding it hard to like understand how to bridge that gap. Maybe I guess I can't, and that's the whole struggle I'm having.
So one thing that I've noticed with my three boys is that so I have ADHD, and I'm pretty sure that at least one or more of my boys does as well. And they all have different their own personalities. We'll say that. And I have to treat every one of them differently based on how they act. So if and my youngest, he's probably the most prominent in ADHD, and I have to treat him very differently because he seems to have less empathy for his siblings than my other two boys do. So I have to treat him differently. I have to teach him differently based on how he acts, and it's been a little bit of a struggle, but we're trying to teach them the best we can, and we have to teach them all differently, and it's based on how they are acting. And so if one of my boys, my middle child, seems to have a lot of empathy, but my youngest seems to have very little. So we have to try to teach them the best that we can, purposefully, and try to teach them that, hey, this is not right. Where my other child, I don't have to tell him as much. He already knows.
I'm glad I'm not the only one, Joe.
Yeah. No, if you're a parent,
It is. It's a case by case basis, and I've got 5, spread out between 7 years. So there's similar ages, but the personalities are crazy different. So
yeah,
it is a case by case thing. And I tell them all the time, I screw up. I'm not perfect. There's no manual for how to be a 36-year-old divorced dad with 5 kids. Like, I haven't found it, right? So I'm doing everything I can. Yeah, I mess up. And I say, hey, I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have treated that person that way, or whatever. You just try to move forward and grow a little bit at a time. It's really not as hard as people may paint it to be. It's just a day by day thing, and it takes a lot of active, effort.
Oh yeah.
But you can do it.
Yeah, we're even with us, we're trying to get the help of counselors and stuff, and that's been a huge help. And if when you have some kids like I do, it's having a counselor is a big help. And if you're even in general, if you're having problems with your kids trying to raise them, the counselors can be very helpful because they can give you tools and things to use.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was one of the hardest.
I don't believe there's just one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think there's just one way of teaching your kids. There's not every single kid individually is different, and you can't treat them the same exactly.
No.
So I don't think there's a one broad way of teaching someone certain aspects of life, such as empathy or being fair.
So, yeah, I hear what you're saying. I'm sorry, I'm breaking up and dropping.
Yeah, you have a little bit of poor connection when you're talking there. But
I'm getting, as I said, out again.
Yeah, we're not getting you any. I'm not hearing you anything.
Yeah, I'm not hearing anything either.
Yeah, he's dropping out.
There we go.
He has a poor connection.
Turning off video does help. That's part of why I'm always just a floating circle.
Yeah. I just want to say thanks, guys. Some things got cleared up, but it's just kind of food for thought for me.
Yeah,
it's just been
no,
something
it's
I've
totally
been thinking about
understandable.
for the past few years, ever since I deconstructed. I think see, my dad was Muslim, my mom was Catholic, and I think that just kind of he just made sure that I was going to be an atheist, because like both of them couldn't be right, right? And so I've always struggled with like, well, what is truth, and what is how one ought to live, and I guess no one really knows. I could try to come up with like an answer of what I believe, but I guess I'm not sure. And then to make matters worse, I guess becoming a lawyer didn't really help things out either, because with everything
Yeah.
that's going on now, it seems like, what is considered true or right or just can just change by administration.
Well,
So
that being your occupation and your livelihood, that is going to put you in a very particular corner of the room, so to speak, when it comes to understanding the moral issue. You've got a very unique perspective that definitely makes things a bit different. I dare say, because I mean, I do appreciate you popping in here. It was completely unexpected and has been pretty awesome. If you feel like it, I would see what the upcoming on the Line Network, who in there you may feel most comfortable talking with, and pop in on one of the shows when they're there and ask the very same thing and see what they have to say, since they're far more eloquent speakers than me.
mhm.
They might be
Yeah,
able to provide some
I've
better
talked to them.
insight.
I've talked to them
Okay.
before.
Okay.
They sometimes they could be a bit spicy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just feel like sometimes their answers can be a little dogmatic for my tastes, if
Sure.
that makes sense.
Totally.
It's like they left Christian dogmatic kind of thinking, and then like adopted like a new atheist kind of dogmatism, and I don't know. I don't even think dogmatism is a word. Dogma. Yeah.
We'll make it a word.
But yeah, yeah. I could I can call in to them. No problem.
Yeah. I mean, just
Yeah.
do what you feel is best, of course, as you continue to
Yeah.
think about this. And the important thing is you're thinking. You're trying to figure it all out. That is the most critical thing.
So what were you guys talking about before I kind of derailed
Oh no,
everything?
you popped in as soon as things got started. I was just gonna watch a random placeholder video. Like, you popped in minutes after I started, so
Gotcha.
you made it into a show, my friend.
Awesome.
Can't hear you, Brock.
Let me double check. Everything's good on Brock's end. Brock, were you trying to say something?
Is he
I
muted?
can't hear.
You're definitely muted for one reason or another. Everything's good on my end. Double check that you didn't mute on your end, Brock. As Seth perpetually pops in and out.
No, I have relocated to a different Wi-Fi hotspot, so this may work better.
So far, so good.
Yeah, I can't hear Brock. I think he's muted.
Brock is off in the silent zone.
I know he has a. Does he have a headphone? He has a headphones, and I wonder if
Yeah.
they're not working for
Yeah.
his microphone for some
Yeah,
reason.
they were earlier.
While Brock, if I'm still here, can you guys still hear
Yeah,
Yeah, I can hear you.
me?
you're still breaking up a little bit.
I may have to just abort mission completely.
Possibly. I mean, this stream may have reached its peak. I think we had a very, very good conversation. And again, Jack, I thank you so very much for popping in. It's just out of the
Yeah,
blue,
it's all
perfect
good.
timing. Hey, in the event you want to laugh at Kent Hovind, if you're familiar with that clown, that's usually my specialty. So if you want to stick around to the community,
I don't know how much you guys are in like the Catholic apologists like sphere. Did you guys hear about Voice of Reason?
no.
Yeah, so there's like this douchey Catholic apologist guy. He goes by Voice of Reason, and he kind of sounds like a Mexican Sylvester Stallone, because his voice is so deep. Anyway, he got caught like sexting like pretty young girls, and has been doing so for a real long time. And like all these text messages got released between him and several young girls, and it's kind of funny to see like the Catholic apologist community like implode over this, because he was one of the guest speakers that was like regularly on Catholic Answers. And I don't know. I just think it's hilarious because um, the whole priest sex abuse crisis happened, and I think there was like a push amongst like the Catholic online sphere to like feature more single Catholics or like married Catholics. And it seems like even married and single Catholics can't get it together. They're just abusing everybody. And so I just thought I'd mention that.
Interesting.
Can you hear me?
We
Yeah,
can
we
hear
hear
you
you now,
now.
Brock.
Yeah.
My phone must have been a 1% because I remember it reached 10% earlier, and that was a while ago. So,
That would explain it.
oops, I had the wrong one. So I didn't expect moral philosophy to come up. I was hoping somebody would join. We could talk about sciencey things. So, I guess.
I mean, we could talk about sciencey things.
Yeah, I can still go for a little while longer.
Yeah. Hey, Jack.
After,
real quick.
wait. Oh, this is embarrassing. Is your name Kurishu?
Carissa.
Yeah, just Chris is fine.
Okay, Chris. After you're done, I guess I can start my own live stream. Like people can join me to talk about science. I guess unless this goes on for long enough, then I guess it'll be fine.
No, I mean, I didn't plan on this going for too long. I was about to wrap it up until you popped back in and wanted to get some conversation going. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if you had a subject or something particular you want to talk about, Brock, go for it.
I was gonna make another one of those videos where I play the role as Kent and myself. Like, hold on, I'll change my voice. I had a script and I accidentally hit the wrong button and it was all wiped clean. And I don't remember what it was about, so it's all about science. Anyway,
What do you guys think about the ethics of designer babies?
I would love for kids to have their genes modified so they could be healthier, have better eyesight, better immune system. But I don't know much
Agreed.
about any other. I don't have my mind made up on anything else really.
Well, I think we could all agree, like, hey, like reduce like the chance, like, I don't know, coronary artery disease or something, right? Or atherosclerosis, or I don't know, cancer, right? Like, I think we can agree on those things, but like, what about other things? Like, for instance, a couple comes in, they want to do like in vitro fertilization, and suppose they're from India, right? In India, they have like a preference for like a lighter skinned child, right? So like, what do you do if they're like a pretty dark skinned couple and they want to like genetically modify their child so that it's a light skinned child to like increase the child's like social status?
Yeah,
right?
that kind of cosmetic genetic modification is where things get iffy. I've got to think more about it, quite honestly, because the subject's crossed my mind, but I hadn't really thought too hard on where I feel on it.
My thing would be no, because the person that will be experiencing don't have any say so in the matter. You know what I'm saying? So,
I mean, no
but
child.
To argue, could you do this? Right, but there's a certain. I mean, do you want to make it to the point where the kid can have green skin, and it's like, well, this person's going to have green tinted skin, and but if you limit it to physical health improvements, less likely to get cancer because of X, Y, and Z. I don't know. I'm not a professional, but that's okay, because it's, again, going back to where I set my morality in maximizing well-being and minimizing harm.
Sure.
I feel like that's
let's
okay.
Let's just stay with the let's just stay with skin lightening, like a lighter skin, or perhaps like height, if you want to go with height, like maybe a child that's going to be 6 feet tall, right, rather than like a 5'6" person, right? Um, I mean, these are kind of the considerations that we're thinking of. I mean, we already see this with sperm banks, right? That like sperm banks, a lot of them won't even take men that are under like 5'10". Some sperm banks won't even take men that have like red hair. We already see like a type of eugenics going on there. I mean, we're just applying it to the in vitro fertilization, kind of like the designer baby kind of thing.
Yeah, but I mean, let's be honest. Most people have babies. Like, there's not, and this is again not a widespread problem where people are making customized. This is not a game for most children.
Wait.
It's just we
People are
screwed and a
choosing
baby
their.
came.
It's not like we're plants and we're exposed to pollen and we can't, find the source. Like people are choosing their partners. This is natural selection. Like women choose fit mates. They choose mates that are tall. They choose mates that are muscular for the most part, or mates that can provide, right? So there is a level of natural selection already happening, right? And so like this is just one step beyond with the aid of science. So like I'm just
Well,
like talking it out. I'm not saying I agree one way or the other. I'm just making the argument.
right. Well, that would make an argument that in order to be a provider or protector, you automatically have to be like a strong, fit male that's above 6 feet. And we know that that's not so. I don't know. I like the format conversations, but there's a lot of aspects that you got to look at, and to imply that with this, and I don't think that's true.
Yeah, I understand. I'm just saying when it comes to like paying money for in vitro fertilization, like if one has the choice, right? Um, suppose like a bunch of eggs are provided and sperm samples are provided, and we could like choose the embryo that gets implanted, and we could look at the different embryos that we have available, and it's like, oh well, this one looks like it's going to be taller than the other one, so it's like let's implant that one, right? That kind of thing is what I'm talking about.
Well, I mean, is that not
I think
everything else? When you plant a garden
I
and you've
mean,
got your garden, you're taking out the weaker of the plants. Why it's necessarily a bad thing to
sure,
not
but
want to
human beings aren't
use something
right.
that's inferior?
The thing is that human beings aren't plants, right? And so the controversy comes with like, yeah, isn't this just eugenics? Like, shouldn't there be like some kind of ethical concern that we're treating human beings in the same way that we're treating, I don't know, schnauzers or Dachshunds or cows, for instance? Maybe we shouldn't do these things.
I
well,
mean,
I
anybody
also
else
did also did
want to chime in?
yeah,
But I don't want to, so to speak. Thank you, Chris, again for even having
sure.
us on. This is an awesome format.
Cool.
Yeah, if I could chime in real quick, I was just gonna say that when it comes to reducing harm, when it comes to, genetically modifying something, it you got to think about the specifics of it, whether or not it's moral or right, um, to a degree. But I mean, when it comes to reducing harm, all you gotta do if you really want a child that is white or a specific height or whatever, I mean, there's the option of adoption.
Right. Good point.
Yeah, sure. There's the option for adoption, but I'm not saying that people shouldn't adopt. I'm saying when it comes to like a couple actually wanting to like freeze their eggs and do in vitro fertilization, because they want to like create this like Gattaca-esque, designer baby, or that is smarter than average, healthier on average, less susceptible to cancer or other diseases. Um, should that be ethical? Should that be allowed?
I think it comes down to maybe the specifics of that situation of what they're doing. Because I mean, if you're just changing one small thing, it may not be a big deal. But I mean, if you're trying to make someone's skin green, that's probably not going to be something you want to do. I mean, we also got to think about it. If we're modifying genetics, is there gonna be any kind of side effect that we don't expect, or something like that, when we do mess with the genetics? And if we start seeing that, that's something that we should be rethinked.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't want to have like some, 20-fingered child with green skin. I'm not saying. I'm saying. I think everybody would pretty much be in agreement. Like something like that should be prevented. I'm just talking about. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I just want to make note that it seems like my entire audience is prejudiced against green skin. What y'all got against green skin people?
Well, I mean, I could answer honestly, or I could just, yeah.
It's just a joke, so yeah, don't take it seriously.
Yeah, I mean, let's think about it for a second. I mean, perhaps if it was some kind of like evolutionary like advantage for somebody's skin to be green because maybe they can act like a plant and like, I don't know, get energy from the sun, like chlorophyll or something. Like maybe that would be cool, maybe that can have some kind of benefit somehow. I don't know. Maybe it would be a trend. Maybe in 2075 there'll be some like green skin model, working for Calvin Klein.
Photosynthetic humans. The future is now.
That sounds kind of cool.
Can you imagine the porn? Can you imagine the green skin porn?
What?
I that's the first thing I'm thinking of. I want to know what color are the nipples, Are they darker green? Or are they pink? Are they brown? What are they,
Oh, jeez. Just like Thanos' daughter, Gamora,
I've never seen her nipples. I don't know what they're like. They could be anything.
Can I ask? Chris?
Yeah.
I just remember something. So I was while you guys were talking about stuff, I drew a family tree and there's colors on it that represent the individual frog species. And I remember I drew one, I lost access to it, I don't know how I did, but I drew one for Kent. And to show him, I did make a point. And he's like, so you just wrote that, you just made it up, and he shut me down before I could even talk. It's kind of weird. I feel like he's trying to hide.
For you.
Yeah, I think he's trying to hide the fact that he just doesn't know anything. You know what I mean?
He is.
Let's see here.
I think about ethics all the time, so I apologize to you guys because that's pretty much all I think about. It's because it's my job. It affects like what we're talking about as far as like the current political climate that's going on in the United States. I think at the heart of it, it's all about like objective versus subjective morality.
Yep. Already said my entire best I can articulate on the entire idea of it again being subjectively objective, in that we all generally seem to agree. And it's the outliers that create problems, but it's going to be in isolated groups, and that it's just kind of a trait of the nature of us being in societies. It's just convoluted.
Yeah, it makes me think of.
I'm going to open the floor now and take a step.
It just makes me think of Jurassic Park about they.
Thank you for your time, Jack. It was a pleasure talking to you, man.
No worries.
See you, Jack.
Chris, are there any Are there any people who don't believe in evolution that are in the chat right now? It'd be kind of cool to talk to them about that topic.
Well, guys, we've run into a slight problem in that I've got to go take care of something. I didn't realize we'd already crossed the hour mark. So I think this is going to be the end of this particular stream.
Oh.
Well, thanks for having me, dude. It was great talking to you.
guys.
Joe, I'm watching the video right now of your call. Like in the middle of this, I was watching it and I hadn't got to the part with Chris yet, but you did great. I'm about to finish that up, but I will talk to you guys soon. Appreciate you having me.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Catch everyone next time.
Oh.